What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about wintertime dock fishing because we're on a lake in North Carolina, and it got me thinking that in the south there's a lot of docks that don't get pulled out. Where I'm from, they pull the docks in the wintertime because of ice, but if you live in a part of the country where they don't pull the docks, this is going to be a video you're not going to want to miss, because fish in the wintertime on docks do not do the same thing, and you won't want to throw the same things as fish on docks in the spring and summertime. So stick around, y'all aren't going to want to miss this one. So wintertime docks. Dock fishing is something that is beloved by me and most of the country. It's hard to beat it because it holds big fish and it also holds numbers of fish. So what are we going to change in the wintertime and late fall like we are right now that we don't typically do in the spring and summertime? First thing is water temperature cools off and typically clears up. Right? You don't have the algae blooms anymore. You have that colder, cleaner water. There's not as many people out on the lakes, so the water's not as turbid. It's not getting stirred up. Those fish are cold and the water is clean. So right away, that tells me I'm gonna have to downsize my line, right? Because those fish are gonna be able to see better, and they're in colder water, sound travels faster. It's kind of like cold winter mornings. You can hear the echo through the mountains or through the fields wherever you're at. The same thing applies in the water. I was fishing over some suspended fish in like 40 feet of water, and I was watching a fish on the bottom in 35 feet. Water temps is only 60, and when I pitched my drop shot, it was one of those casts that goes thunk when it hits the water, and I watched the fish react from 30 feet away. So you think about your boat. I'm in a 20-foot boat. That shows you it's really not that deep, right? And so that colder, cleaner water means you're gonna have to be a little bit stealthier. So lighten your line up, lighten your weights up, because those fish are gonna react a little bit different, right? So with the jigs that I'm throwing, I'm now gonna go to lighter size jigs. I'm gonna go to my 3/16, my quarters, my 3/8, depending on how deep the water is. Deep water, I'm gonna go to like a 3/8. You know, shallower water, I'm gonna go to like a quarter, 3/16. I'm gonna go to those lighter jigs because the fall rate is going to be super critical, because those fish aren't reacting as fast as they used to. Now don't get me wrong, if you get a really sunny day, sometimes try to put a half on, like a compact jig though. I'm throwing littler jigs. I'm not throwing great big jigs, I'm throwing smaller compact jigs, so you could go to a half and get that faster fall rate and see if they react, like if they want to eat it real fast. But on the majority of the days, I'm going with a smaller, lighter, compact jig. It's just the way of the world. They eat it better, and it falls a little bit slower to where they can react to it in a timely manner. They can eat it on the fall more, because they're not going to want to chase things all the way to the bottom like they typically would. And unless you're on really shallow docks, in which case I want a bait that's going to fall slow and not settle in the mud. It's just going to sit on top. So smaller, compact jigs. And as always, I will have all of my favorite jigs and stuff linked down below. One of my favorites recently has been this Bass Patrol Finesse football jig. I've been catching a lot of spotted bass and largemouth on it. It's a 3/8 size. I have a flapping, or I think it's called a batwing, a Z-Man batwing. It's just like a chunk style trailer. That's been doing really good for me. You can see it's just a small, compact profile as a 3/8 jig, which is really important. So that's the first thing we're gonna do, right? We're gonna lighten our weights, and that includes worms, that includes shaky heads. You know, when I'm throwing Nico rigs, which is a big time player in the wintertime on docks, I'm gonna go to like a 32nd ounce weight, you know, on a full 5-inch Senko, if I'm not throwing a Wacky Rig. Because a Wacky Rig and a Nico rig are probably one of the most deadly baits ever for wintertime bass, just because that slow shimmy. It's hard to beat a Gary Yamamoto as well. You know, a stick bait in general is hard to beat, but that Yamamoto has an incredible fall as a Wacky Rig, and I like that Berkeley Max scent general. That does a really good job. That scent really plays in when they can get right up on it. But that Nico rig with a 32nd ounce weight does a really good job at catching those fish, and it catches big fish too, so you really have to be surprised by that. Now there's one other category that I want to talk about that people typically kind of overlook, and that's going to be bigger baits. This is a Spro KGB shad. I've only been throwing this bait for a couple months now, but I honestly really like it because it has a nice sink rate to it. It doesn't blow out real hard, and it sinks really nice. But bigger swim baits start to play because in the wintertime on docks, bigger fish are kind of starting to slide back up, right? There's less pressure, there's less people on the water, so those fish aren't as afraid as they used to be. Now the problem that you're going to run into is trying to throw these baits around docks. If you'll look closely at this one's got a bunch of big cracks in it because I smoked it off a boat lift not less than an hour ago. So it gets water in it now and it sucks. So if you're too afraid to throw baits like this, don't be afraid to throw soft plastic swim baits, because soft plastic swim baits are also going to be your best friend because they have that nice methodical thump. And as you get into the winter time, I start to put these away as that water gets colder and we start to break out the swim baits again. We're talking about your mag drafts. We're talking about your 6 cents whales. They actually just came out with a 6-inch model, which is going to be like a freestyle mag draft, but this is going to be my personal favorite just because, well, let's face it, they sponsor me and they send me a bunch of them, but I also honestly really like the action of it. And so that's going to be a bait that skips extremely well around docks, and it's going to be something you can slide back up in there, get that nice methodical slow thump. Those fish are going to have time to come up, track it, and eat it. I really only break it out on days like today. You can see it's a little cloudier, a little bit of wind. That's going to be the ideal conditions that I'm going to throw this, but it's just such a great bait that you can get bites and get big bites with, especially this time of year. And I will have all the rods and stuff that I throw down below, but this one specifically I want to talk about that 7.3 Arc Essence. It's mag medium heavy, and it honestly, it's my go-to jig rod on docks. It's my go-to swim bait rod because it's at 7.3. It's a little bit shorter, but you still get the power to really drive the hook home, which is really important. But again, instead of throwing like 25-pound line, I'm going to go to like 20-pound line on a swim bait because it's going to give it, or with these smaller ones, I'm going to go to like 15 because it's going to be clear water. It's going to give it a better sink rate. I'm going to stay in contact a little bit better, and it's going to be a little bit more natural and easy to skip with it. So that's super important. The last bait that I want to talk about is going to be, got a whole box of them right here. It's probably backwards, but it's a jerk bait, which is something that people typically don't think of as a dock bait. But you get some of these deeper docks down south, if I can get one out of here. You get some of these deeper docks, or even some of the shallower docks with that clear water, you can really entice those fish out because you can pause it for forever and let those fish kind of just ease out real slow. So again, I like that 6 cents provoke, and I like that Megabass Vision 110. I throw both of those. You can see I have the exact same color right here. That's not an accident. I can't remember the 6 cents color, but it's like a light blue. I'll have them linked down below as always. But those jerk baits just do a really good job because you can pause it around those docks and really let those fish come out and come to you, versus a lot of the other baits, it's kind of like if they're going to eat it, they're going to eat it. So with forward-facing sonar, I can watch how those fish react and really let them come out on it. And those baits work really well when it's sunny and when it's overcast. So that's just another bait to keep in mind. So hopefully this helps you guys kind of pick out your docks a little bit better. Actually, let's talk about some of the docks. Let's talk about some of the docks that I'm going to target, because as we get into these winter and fall, late fall and early springtime months, the docks that you target are going to be a little bit different than the docks you would typically target in the spring or in the summer. I'm looking at the deeper docks. I want docks that those fish can slide up and down really easy, that vertical structure. That is going to be the docks that I'm really going to target with these baits, because those fish have access to deep water. If you get a cold front, they can kind of slide down, versus, you know, the shallower docks, they have to move further. Now, I'm not saying if you get a sunny day, you might find some big fish on shallow docks, but look for the shallow docks closest to the main lake that they have to travel the least distance to get to. That's going to be critical when it comes to picking the right docks. So hopefully this helps you guys with dock fishing. Be sure to follow along with the content that I have coming out. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.